Okay, good morning. Welcome, everyone. It's a great pleasure to welcome you to today's expert consultation on streamlining the Indian spice market, issues and ways forward. The aim today is to discuss how food safety and standards can be uniformly implemented across the spices supply chain, which can help to formalize the sector, allowing MSMEs to grow and to develop new brands. India accounts for over 40% of the world's spice production. Over 75 varieties are produced in India. But our Food Safety and Standards Authority, FSSAI, today has standards for only 45 spices, and Codex Alimentarius has standards for only 14. Standards for some common spices like coriander are still being developed in the Codex. Without standards, we cannot fully tap the existing export potential, and nor can we avoid wide variations in product quality in the domestic market, which obviously leads to safety concerns. I'm delighted to see eminent speakers like Dr. Ramesh Chand, our colleague at ICRIER, who has also served as a reviewer for this study, and Dr. Raka Saxena, Program Director, Agriculture Policy, NITI Aayog, who will be discussing the finer points of this issue. We are grateful to Mr. Siraj Hussain, Advisor, Food Processing, FICCI, and former Union Secretary, for his invaluable insights as a reviewer and for moderating today's panel. This is an excellent panel of policy experts, nutritionists, scientists, and industry representatives. Such collaborations can help drive forward the discussion on food safety standards. We are especially grateful to the industry for their valuable inputs, especially to the Federation of Spice Stakeholders. Industry inputs are essential for designing policies to the benefit of the entire ecosystem. ICRIER has been working hard, for those who know the institution, in various facets on improving the quality of Indian agriculture. We have done a lot of research work on agricultural value chains, including the spices value chain. This policy brief builds upon our previous work, making India the global hub for turmeric. Due to gaps in domestic standards and export processes, there are a host of spurious products being exported, which leads to product rejections. A few years ago, Singapore banned our spices. The EU is coming up with a digital product passport. The entire supply chain's traceability and cross-border e-document exchanges are increasingly becoming mandatory requirements for exports. So, while these are all interesting topics for our next policy brief, this one is focused on the domestic market. Our priority should be ensuring food safety by implementing standards, including for testing procedures, across the food value chain in the domestic market. I'm sure that today's discussion will come up with targeted recommendations on how to take this forward. Thanks once again. It's delightful to see you all at ICRIER, and I wish everybody a very pleasant and fruitful morning of exchanges. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Dr. Ramesh Chand as our keynote speaker.
Thank you and good morning to all. First of all, I really want to appreciate Arpita without causing any embarrassment to her through my appreciation for picking up the commodities which look to be very, very minor, but I think which has special importance for India, and which together can bring a lot of benefit to our economy, and they are also important for domestic consumption, export, and a couple of other things. And I would like to share with you some of the statistics which are mind-boggling related to spices. And I also feel that spices are important for us, not only from economic point of view, they are our heritage. I was very much impressed sometime back, the book by William Darlington. Some of you might have read it or seen it, The Golden Road. So there he just mentioned how the gold from Rome flew to South India, particularly Kerala, and the coffer of Roman Empire became empty. were so much impressed by aroma and other attribute, other qualities of the spices. There's so much spices went from southern India to Rome that most of the gold in Rome came to India. So the Golden Road is a book which deals with the other aspects of interaction between India and rest of the world, but he make a special mention of this pulses, which is lesser known. Now, coming to this topic of streamlining marketing for pulses, I feel that if we want to discuss to streamline marketing of spices or any other things, what should be the major underlying consideration or underlying criteria to do that? I feel that should be guided by what kind of changes are happening on demand side and what kind of changes are happening on supply side, and what kind of changes you see are happening not only in domestic demand, even in overseas demand. So if we look at these three aspects, you will be surprised to know that the development in the spices sector is much, much faster than the development we see in India's agriculture. Overall, India's agriculture is also changing in a very big way. Yesterday, ICRIER put my working paper on its portal, where I just mentioned that the changes of last 10 years are historically different, unique. And also India has emerged as the fastest growing agriculture economy globally compared to any other country. So, but within that, if you look at spices, I just found that in the plant food sector, there are two sectors of food: plant food and livestock food. So in the plant food sector, if you look at last 12 years, what kind of growth has happened in different food sectors, other than dry fruit, nuts, the highest growth has happened in the case of spices. The per capita consumption has increased per year by 5.4%. In 11 years, the increase is 70%. So you don't find this kind of increase in any other plant food category, cereal, sugar, edible oil, whatever you take. You just find that this increase is highest, except in the case of dry fruit, which have very small share, but pulses are different. They have very high share in the consumer food expenditure. They have grown even faster than the demand or consumption of milk, even consumption of fish within the country. Production of fish has grown faster than spices, but consumption within the country is much slower than what is the rate of growth in domestic consumption of pulses. Per capita demand increased by 5.4%. Total demand increased by 6.4%. So imagine that rest of the food, it is only 2.8. So more than 3 times, that is the kind of growth which is happening. The second surprising number which I got was, in fact, sometime back also, I was asked by Spices Board to address their annual meeting in Tamil Nadu. I looked at these kind of things. Yesterday, I again looked at it. The expenditure on spices is more than what is the per capita expenditure on sugar. Legume, pulses. You know, we eat pulses daily so much that every food you eat with vegetable or pulses. But expenditure on spices in India, in rural as well as urban area, is more than what is the combined expenditure on pulses and sugar. I double checked that number yesterday by downloading the report of HCES, Household Consumer Expenditure Survey, and again I found that the average Indian consumer spend more on spices than what we spend on legume and legume plus sugar. So if we have to look at demand side things, I feel there is a strong case to streamline the markets because demand dynamics are changing very rapidly. Then if we look at supply side, the share of spices in 11-12 in the total value of crop sector at constant prices was 3.9%. It increased to 5.9%. So again, on supply side, similar kind of things happen. It is not that household consumption increase is happening because imported spices are coming. So if we look at the supply at constant prices, the share increased from 3.9% to 5.9%, which again implies that compared to the growth of plant or crop sector, the growth in production or supply, domestic supply of spices has been 50% more. The second number with that if you look at share of spices in the at current prices, that has increased from 3.9 to 9%. So today, close to 1/10 of the value of crop sector is of spices. So spices are not just a minor kind of commodities that if you take them together, they are nearly 1/10 of what is the total crop sector in our country. And I interpret the faster growth in current prices than the constant prices as rising consumer preference, which is leading to a faster increase in prices of spices than the spices of other commodities. I feel that the way we are promoting Ayush, the way we are promoting our ethnic food, I expect that the future demand will have very strong growth. It is not that what has happened in 11 years, the story is over. I expect it to be growing at a much faster rate. And in fact, spices are not only important for human. Some of you don't come from background, but there are some people who come from farming background also in this meeting. They are there. So you will be surprised to know that spices are also fed to livestock to take care of health, to take care of immunity, all those kind of things. The pulses are fed to livestock also, particularly fenugreek, nutmeg. They are very important for livestock also. Then I look at the fourth statistics to flag the importance of spices. They are the third biggest agriculture export items. The most important is fishery. Most important is our rice, basmati and non-basmati, more than $10 billion US export. Number two is fish, which is little more than $6 billion. And the export of spices is $4 billion US. I was really surprised that they are so important even for export, and our export to value or export to production share hovers between 12 to 15%. So, and we export worth 40,000 crores in financial year 2026. I think these are the factors which lend support to the fact that if this sector is growing that rapidly, then we can't leave it to the fate of the market, as it has so many issues. It has not evolved with time. The infrastructure is not upgraded. So if we look at what kind of quality, what kind of other kind of standard consumer are looking in spices, then really I feel that there is a need to streamline market of these commodities. One more statistics. Many people feel that if India is selling pulses in such a large quantity in overseas markets, it is because of Indian diaspora. Yes, it is there because of that, but only partly. And that number, which I got to say that not only Indian diaspora, but even people, foreigners, they are also realizing the value of spices. I was surprised that in China, we have, I think, hardly any much diaspora. But China is the second biggest importer of spices from India after US, and their share is 12%. I don't think share of China in Indian diaspora is 12%. It may not be more than 2-3%. But their share in India's total export is 12%, which shows that it is not only Indian diaspora, but even the foreign nationals, they are getting attracted, they are getting fascinated toward our spices. And when we have to do streamlining, maybe Arpita, we will sit individually. I should not be taking more time than what is the time allotted to me. That what could be the basis, because spices is not a uniform cereal kind of sector, that there are 10 commodities, but they are more or less uniform as far as their marketing is concerned. But spices, on one hand, we have chilies, which are item of mass consumption, which can be sold like ordinary vegetable, no problem. On the other extreme, we have saffron, we have clove, we have cardamom, which are of very high value. Different type of consumer buy those products. So market need to be, I think, segmented, stratified, that we cater to different income classes. And also many spices directly enter the kitchen, but some spices do not enter the kitchen without processing. So there, what kind of market is needed for processor, what kind of market for general spices. And other issue I wanted to flag, but Shekhar has already flagged it, that going forward, quality issues, food safety issues, they are going to assume very high importance. In the past, we have not paid attention to these kind of things. That's why sometime back, our consignment of chilies, I think 3-4 consignments were rejected. And they were rejected on the basis that there is a pesticide residue, the pesticide which neither India produce nor it import. So something happening there. So food safety concern, and also that old Pansari wala, that there is some pepper in his box which is not airtight. When he opened, you find mold and all those kind of things. That was okay, that our retailer could take us for right, but they can't take new generation for right for as far as quality is concerned. They are very conscious about quality. They don't prefer loose product. They want packaged products. So I think we have to look at modern products. Then the issue which Shekhar flagged, that safety, quality, toxicity, infection, sanitary, phytosanitary, they are very, very important. And in my view, they should get the primary consideration when we talk about streamlining marketing. So once again, congratulations, Arpita, to you and to your entire team for taking up this important study. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, sir, for your address. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Raka Saxena for a special address, please.
Thank you. Very good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank ICRIER for giving me this opportunity. Professor Ramesh and DG ICRIER, the research team, I would like to compliment the research team for undertaking this very, very important study. So I would like to start from where Sir has left. So I would like to touch on number of things which are very, very important for a spice market, not only in India, but also globally. So when we look at spices, we have kind of monopoly situation in case of when we talk about exports of spices. We know that we export a lot of cumin. And as Sir has mentioned that we export around $4 billion of spices to the overseas, out of which 25% is of single commodity, that is capsicum and dry chilies, ground chilies we call. So $1 billion is a huge number. and cumin is there, coriander is there, turmeric is there, where we are holding #1 position. And one other important thing is that, like we talk about domestic supply chain of spices, we export cumin to more than 140 countries. So our supply chain goes beyond from 3,000, 4,000 kilometers to 13,000, 14,000 kilometers overseas. So now we have to take care of the standards of so many other countries where our spices are going. So we need to, this is very, very important area which you have chosen. And when we look at the spices, the demand, sir has already mentioned, the demand has been increasing. Particularly if you look at the demand for cumin in export markets, the demand which was growing at around 17 or 18% during the last 10 years, post-COVID, it has grown more than 20% rate. So demand, particularly post-COVID, the demand for such commodities which are ethnic, which are health products, which are now being positioned as a health product. So the demand has increased post-COVID, during post-COVID phases. And despite all these, despite holding these positions in the global market, we have kind of monopoly in 6 or 7 spices, still we have tapped less than 50% of our global trade potential, which is less in some of the spices, starting from 38, 39% to 54, 55%. Now, what are the possible causes for this kind of situation? So food safety, which you have chosen, is extremely important. Many of our consignments are being rejected because of number of issues. So we don't have, but when we look at the domestic market for spices, we don't have any database which reflects how our domestic consignments are being treated. Like, for example, like if they're unsafe, we don't have database on what kind of deficiencies are there. So I think we can take up this thing with some of the development organizations and other line departments of the government, where we can maintain some kind of data in the domestic market. For example, our major exports, we have all this data when we talk about US FDA. We can get all rejections in US market. So we have all that data which reflects what are the possible reasons. When we look at the rejection of our consignments in the global market, we have possible reasons. Salmonella is one. We have other pesticide residues. Even we have supply chain constraints. For example, our labels are not proper. We have mislabeling, we have misbranding, we have all those supply chain issues. So we have that documented data is there when we supply to the overseas market, but we don't have any such database domestically which reflects how spices are being treated here. So this could be one of the recommendations when we talk about these areas. So this is one issue which has to be dealt very, very particularly. And also when we see how these rejections are distributed across spices. Cumin is one of the sensitive commodities where rejections are higher. And also, I mean, we have certain hotspots. When you look at the database, we have few suppliers from India, where consignment rejections are very high. So it is easier for the organizations which are involved. We can identify the blind spots. We can identify the hotspots, and those could be put on surveillance. So we need to have certain measures which are very, very important, and they need to capture entire supply chain. One is that we have to capture different stages of the supply chain from upstream to the bottom stream. And the production point, the farmer is the critical point which has to be educated. We were talking just a few minutes back. The farmers need to be given proper skills, proper capacity to cater to their product, to handle their product, how these are positioned, how these are packaged, how these are graded, how these are handled during the supply chain. So our extension system has to cater to all these things. So farmers must be educated properly. Traceability is another important thing. For example, we have certain hotspots, how those hotspots can be traced back so that we can tackle directly at the critical point, at the critical stage. So traceability is very important. Now we have all blockchain, AI-based technological solutions which can be implemented during the supply chain. Global market intelligence, actually, which is missing not only the domestic market intelligence, but also the global market intelligence. Some of our embassies are working on this thing. But this has to be institutional part of our agricultural value system. The domestic market intelligence on all those, particularly these high value products, which are being just sold at more than 1,000 rupees a kg in the domestic and overseas market. So these must be part of this. And database, as I mentioned, this is also an important area where we must have our intervention, all these things. So these are some of my points on this particular, then we can further interact.
So Mr. Siraj Hussain is on his way. So we are just waiting for him to release the report. So before he comes, I'll start presenting the report. And if you don't mind, we release it after the presentation.
Sure.
Because we would like, this is going to be a heated topic and we would like it to be a heated topic of standards in the domestic market. So we would like to have enough space for consultations.
Spices are hot always.
Yes.
Hot topic.
So, sir, while this is being set up and while this is happening, when we got this topic to really work on, we got various comments, including yours, that the policy brief should be shorter in size. Okay, so we had a lot of things to consume, and we realized that all of that cannot be consumed in a single policy brief. So, this is a series, right? The next one is on some of the issues that you are raising is on export and something which is more interesting to you. If it is a fragmented export supply chain, what happens when there is parallel exports? Thanks to Tejas, you will be the leader there. So if I come to this policy brief, what we try to do in this is, please go back to the previous slide. What we try to do in this policy brief is, we are looking at the global market where we fit. We have already heard that we have a very good share. Then we look at the Indian market. Then we look at the objective of the study. And then we look at the supply chain very shortly. Then we look at the where the market can be. Now, here when we look at everything, I would like you to think it through. You on production, you have the data of 23 spices. Many spices, fish and other spice preparation, they are picking up the data and giving it to the government. It is not a state level mapping of the agricultural land, and that is how the data should be collected, geotagging, etc., which is asked by the European Union, would become a condition now, but it is not happening like that. It is as of now, industry sources from the mandis, they have data and information till the mandis. FPOs have data till the traders. Nobody has data till the field. This is the current scenario of spices. Now, when you go to the market demand scenario, spices have various end use. And if you move out, there is a food, there is a Ayurveda food, there is a nutraceutical, there is spices in medicines, and there is spices in cosmetics and other spices uses. When you go to all these uses and you come to end user food, it is only the consulting organizations that are trying to do surveys, get data, look at the data, secondary data from NSSO and other consumptions, and trying to find out. In short, data is limited. Then when we come to standards, there is, standards are always different across countries. And as we were discussing with Anilji, WTO allows countries to set up their standards as long as it is scientifically valid. Scientifically, Codex tried to set up the minimum standard of spices, but it has only 14 standards. FSSAI has 45 standards. India produces 75 spices. These are the topics that I would like to think through as I move through the presentation. Next slide, please.
Arpita, what is the Codex Alimentarius?
Codex Alimentarius is the global body which sets food safety and standards.
It's global, not Indian.
And it's referenced in SPS agreement, so it's an officially.
It's a benchmark basically
Yes,
for
global benchmark.
Try to align with Codex.
Rajkumar, isko manually kar do. Don't worry. So basically what we are trying to understand is that, can I have the minimum global standards? Now, while they set it up, let me also explain where the world is growing and where India is growing based on the comments that Raka ji, you and Ramesh ji has given. Now, when we did our turmeric study with Ramesh ji has actually inaugurated a few years ago, what we found is that FSSAI standard says 2% curcumin. Okay, curcumin 2% is done. But half of Indians now look at curcumin 5%, 7%, and marketing also happens like that. Lakadan, turmeric, 7% curcumin. The world is going for 5% curcumin. The EU, US. Now we need to really rethink that if a product is putting putting a high value because the product is organic, 3 times the price, because the product has curcumin, as per the requirement that it is marketed as per the international, what they're calling European Union, US standards, and my standard meeting that curcumin level. Now, then we talk about not cancelling the product which is at 2%. We are talking about how to improve the farm level practices. If you talk to those with GI products like Erode, they are not able to meet 2% curcumin. So they are telling us that, if you go and do their surveys, they are telling us, help me to reach 5%. So this is what we are trying to do when we are talking about the supply chain. Now, moving to this part, what is happening today is that, yes, global market is very large, it is growing. India is the largest producer and consumer in this market. Next slide, please. So now when you look at the Indian spices market, the market studies look at it as a very big market. Now, if I just concentrate on the food segment, which was the component of our study, so what we did is we look at food. And from food, we look at 3 spices which is regularly used in food, which is coriander, chili, and turmeric. The reason we looked at these 3 is because, sir, you are right, each spice supply chain is different. They have to be looked at it differently, and how they move forward is very important. Lot of work is done by FIS, by the way, on cumin. So we did not want to enter into a territory which was well researched, well studied, and well marketed. So Gujarat has the market also, mandi for cumin. So we did not touch. So we kind of carefully touched the subject. We touched the subject from the end use. End users can be consumers in their food processing industry, hotels. A big end use is also the government. And that is where, we have brought in health ministries here. Food safety is actually under the health ministry. We have Seemaji also in food and nutrition, in government programs, where sometimes you add many things like salt to taste, spice to taste, like that. There is no recommended standards, of spices. So therefore, that is one part of the government program. Now, all these things are very good, but the fact remains is today 60 to 80% of the market is in the informal sector. And the biggest problem is, if you talk to SMEs, they are saying that I am not able to compete. Price competitiveness. India is still a very price sensitive market. So if I'm a SME brand, I am not able, and I follow the rules and regulation of the land. And that is very important. If I'm a SME brand and I follow the rules and regulation, I get my product tested and certified as per the laboratory testing and other requirements, then I am not able to offer the price that you can go and straight away buy from the mandi and come back, or your retailer is buying from the mandi and they are packaging and selling at your doorstep. So these are the problem that I'm having. So there is no, then I'm not able to brand, I'm not able to label. So that is the concept that we are trying to find out the reason behind it, not that we are trying to handle the problem. Next slide, please. So if you look at why we selected these 3 products, is very clear that these 3 products are quite a product where we are global leaders in production. But if you see red chili, we are kind of losing the market a little bit in production to other countries, And in turmeric also, high curcumin, suddenly Fiji is coming out from nowhere. So there are countries which are popping up and down in productions, which we really don't know why it is happening. So we are looking at how the food safety challenge happens, what is the impact, where are the regulatory gaps, what can be done to formalize the sector, and what can be done to support the MSMEs to scale up and enter the formal segment of the market. They are mostly in the informal segment of the market. So this is the storyline. Next slide, please. So as you can see, yes, spice production is increasing, but you do not have the data. You have mostly the data of there is a difference between area, there is a difference between the amounts, and you have the data of 23 spices. So the bigger issue is that you need the data of at least minimum 75 spices that are recommended that India grows and India tries to export. So that is probably our first takeaway from the data. Next. then one thing you find is that because the spice production is very concentrated in certain states and certain pockets, it is pretty vulnerable. And now if we use the term sustainability, diversity, and all of that, because these are now becoming global terms. Like, if you are producing 50% of your coriander from one state of Madhya Pradesh, you are very susceptible to the conditions there. Why are we not able to diversify the production and diversify the source? So basically what we understand, there is a department of horticulture, it's of spices, government has the department, state government are supposed to create map, give their data, the center is collecting the data from states and union territories and trying to put the data. Some industries are also coming up to do the mapping, agricultural university, everybody is trying to collect and collect the data and try to give the data to the government. But because of the lack of geotagging or recording at the field level or even at the mandi level, if I bring my product to the mandi, it is not linking to my farm or the farmers, which is happening in many other product category. This entire exercise is becoming humongous day by day. And also you have to note that most of the spice farmers are small farmers, and what they do is they do spices apart from other things. So I will have a land where I will grow rice, and in a small portion of the land I will grow spices. So there is a issue of variation in quality. So it is a collective effort. To make it a collective effort, government has tried and done certain things. They have created FPOs, they have funded FPOs, they have created cooperatives, they are funding cooperatives. But if you go to the FPO website, you will never find which FPO is in which spices. So if you just do simple things like data, if you're talking about data, you just go to the FPO website, there is no data. If you go to NCDX, spices is a big commodity there, but again you go to the data, backend data is not there. So these are the kind of problems that we talk about. But next slide, please. So basically what is happening, I'm not, supply chain is fragmented, no doubt. You have small farmers from there, they even if a company wants to go and collect, the problem that we are facing is that the company first trains the farmer, gives the farmer a brilliant idea that you have to put in this much quantity of pesticide, this is be it a foreign company or a domestic company. Then the farmer has other people moving around with the cheaper input. Now, for him, price sensitivity means that he goes for the cheapest input and something he has a product. The moment he has a product and he takes the product to the FPO says, once the product is sold, I'm going to give you money. So the farmer just goes to the trader, which is walking around. So the trader gives him money, picks up the product. He uses that money for the next cycle. Again, traders pick it up. So it is a cycle that is where the trader acts as a money lender from whom he does the stuff, and he sometimes takes seeds, etc., from places which he thinks are good. And our survey found even in government reputed and marked places, he's taking inputs, he's putting those inputs, and we went in detail and explaining this in our turmeric report, and the input is bad. So there is a field level input issue is very high. Second issue which is very high is in the drying stage polishing, because you just keep it in the open to dry, or your polishing is very old. So this drying polishing stage is a place where they do not have a sophisticated dryer and machine. And in this stage, actually countries like Kenya has done wonders with bringing in international technologies and others to really put a cleaning at that stage, because as you dry and process and clean, you can remove a lot of chemical content in the spice. But the problem is we are not able to do that. Also, our drying and processing techniques vary by the state. So Mizoram has a different technique than Chennai or south of India. So these two techniques, aligning with the technique and practices of the tradition and the state and the tribal and all other culture, implementing a foreign technology for drying and processing itself is a big thing. Then comes the middleman and the mandis. Actually, they are the 60% of the businesses in the spice segment. They sell loose. The hotel and restaurant would go and buy in bulk. So they are the ones that is actually doing the deals. They are the one who are doing the procuring, and they are the one that needs to be looked into. And most of the research that actually find problems in the spices, scientific research, actually go and does a mandi sample picking up. So the technique is that they pick up a sample from the mandi, they do their laboratory testing, agree on the laboratory testing, they buy the product. Same is true for the industry also. They go to the mandi, they pick up the sample, they test the sample, they find the sample to be incorrect. So mandis, the laboratories, and then they kind of reject, do it, decide whether it should go to the EU market or the domestic market. So the poor quality stay domestic, good quality go abroad. So this is the current scenario. Then comes the processing and technique that actually can happen by the FPO at the farm level, or it can go elsewhere. That is where the real testing and and monitoring happens. And then comes to the retail outlet through the consumers. Consumers can go to the mandis to pick it up if they are a big family or something like that, or they can pick it up from their retailers. But there is a big market for loose unsold package at the retail level in India. And it is not bad to have an unsold package market. Turkey has one of the largest global market. It is bad to have an unsold market which is not following the food safety regulation. That's what I would lead my discussions to. Next slide, please. So what we think is that, yes, the market is growing, but if you put the food use of spices for food, now the problem is within food, one component has gone to nutraceutical, which is like turmeric latte and all those cumin in water. So if you delete that part and use the rightful use of spices in food in whole or crushed or powdered format, then that market has actually slower growth than the GDP. As per various reports of the consulting organization, there is no government report on the real consumption, how it is happening. However, that if you are able to implement the food safety and standards, then the food component becomes much more interesting, and people will be picking Indian spices. Then this market is likely to boom at a much higher rate, because I don't go for a higher curcumin turmeric for my milk and latte and a lower curcumin for my daily use. I am changing my style to one purchase and one use, and then the use becomes a lot better in terms of the growth rate. Next slide, please. So basically, what is happening today? There is a lot of, basically, India's food safety is very different from the food safety of other countries. In other countries, most countries, apart from somebody like Australia, there is a single nodal agency for food safety. In case of India, the nodal agency for food safety cannot look after export and cannot look after the domestic market. So the jurisdiction begins from the post-harvest stage to the retail stage. So this is the jurisdiction of the Food Safety Authority. So if something happens, so they cannot really, so there is a spice board. Spice board was originally formed from export. Now all the boards under the Commerce Ministry are concentrating more of their effort on domestic production and doing that. Now in this entire process, Spice board has a significant problem, because the story is like this, which is when you put in the seed and you take out the raw spice, it is the baby of Arpita. The moment, or the State Department, the moment it becomes processing, it becomes the baby of Spice Board. The moment it becomes value added, it becomes the baby of Arpita. So basically what happens is that the regulators don't know where their parenting should lie, basically, if you put it like that. Then there is also voluntary standards of BIS, and according to Anilji, voluntary standards should be better than the food safety standards, and we will look into it. Is it happening like that? So basically there is no nodal agencies, there are multiple standards, there are multiple sourcing bodies, and there is a bit of a regulatory vocabular. So if there is a problem, and suppose tomorrow the problem you highlight the company. So tomorrow there is a problem and you highlight the company does not know its value chain. The company does not know the counterfeit product. The company, before highlighting the company, we need to have that value chain as a mandatory process, because otherwise everybody will blame everybody and nobody is going to monitor. So today we do not have a single nodal agency who can be responsible if a problem happens. Next slide, please. So these are the ministerial activities, that there are various agencies, supporting agencies, departments, then new departments are being created. Like National Turmeric Board has been created, sir, but it has not been given an independent budget. So it is under the Spice Board. So there are departments being created, there are activities. So at the moment, I must say, this is a area of regulatory reform, test bed of regulatory reforms, which is happening today within the agricultural center, and we haven't really achieved what to achieve. Next slide, please. So if you go to the previous slide, you will say so many agencies have been created. So there is a department or aeronautics for data collection, and look at the data scenario. So there's no dearth of things that can be done within the existing infrastructure, as long as the model is more collaborative rather than confrontational. That's our understanding of this. Now we come to codex. Now international body is codex, and India is very sweetly placed in this, because India is the secretariat for codex for the spices. This is rarely that India actually is the leader in setting up the decision. So that is where India's role is very, very different here, rather than saying, rather than us being grumpy that other countries do not follow our standard, we can be actually a standard leader. Now, the interesting part is there are NABL approved lab. There are lab of food safety authority. If you go to BIS and find which lab tests spice for food, you will not get the name. But there are labs for spices. Now, BIS is also doing standards. It should do voluntary standards. But why should everybody have their own laboratories? And why should the laboratories not be approved by FSSAI or the National Quality Control Organization? That's my question. I leave it to you for better discussion during the panel. Next slide, please. Now, here is the question. If voluntary standards should have been better than actually mandatory standards, then my question is, why are they not, if we map it? So in some cases, they are trying to align. In some cases, if you go to the next slide, there is a huge difference between FSSAI, Codex.
Amrita, could I ask a clarifying question on the previous slide?
Yes, please.
The previous one. Okay, so there's two regulatory agencies, FSSAI and BIS.
No.
One's voluntary, one's
No.
mandatory. The standards are identical. Does that not mean de facto that the standards are mandatory?
That does mean de facto
Because if-
that the standards should be mandatory, not
No, not should. I'm saying de facto. If you have to wear a seatbelt and you are encouraged to wear a seatbelt, that means you have to wear a seatbelt, right?
Correct.
Because the fact that something is mandatory means that it's mandatory, even if it's also voluntary according to somebody else. So de facto, does it not mean that these standards are mandatory? If they are mandated by law, by
in this country, if you are selling spices or if you are selling spices for food, FSSAI standards have to be followed by every agency. So it is mandatory. Generally, the standards which is set by voluntary bodies are related to certain other aspects of the standards, or they may be higher than the mandatory standard, but in our case, it is not.
exactly, which means in effect that these are all mandatory. Not,
In effect,
way.
they are mandatory,
Yeah,
but
because
two agencies.
if the law is that you have to wear a seatbelt, and there's also a government circular which encourages you to wear a seatbelt,
The law applies.
the law applies, right? The mandatory will always take precedence over voluntary, as if they coexist in the same sphere.
Correct.
Yes.
So, and that brings me to the next one. The next one is that, when here is the problem between Codex and us. In many cases, Codex, this is sample, by the way, it's not everything. So this is sample. So we take it as a sample. In many cases, Codex actually tells you about what is acceptable and what is non-acceptable very clearly, like writing down live insect zero count per 100 gram. For a laboratory, when we interviewed the laboratories, they said if the numbers are very clearly specified, for us to say a yes or a no in a test result is much more simple than if you write down should be free, this shall be done. That is, so they are talking about the numbers to be much more clearly written by the food safety and standards, so that when they do the test, it is a correct test or a wrong test and cannot be challenged legally about this is good, that is color has to be red, and that is all of that needs to be soft and all of that. So this is just a
Can I intervene here? Actually, although this looks different in this table, but FSSAI is now harmonizing all the codex standards. So very soon means most of them has been already standardized, and the rest will be soon standardized.
Arvindji, our paper came early, na ICRIER will take credit for it. but it is rightly pointed. This is needed, sir, because this is
Actually,
this is wonderful work that you are doing.
we harmonize all the standards basically, but we have to take, to look into the interest of our producers, our industries, and all these things have to be taken care. We cannot go, as per codex also. Sometimes we have to deviate as per our local interest, and we should look to the interest of our farmers and other things. But we are trying to harmonize each and every.
Sir, looking at interest of farmer is not in your law. FSSAI is supposed to not, your jurisdiction begins at post harvest.
Safety and health is the prime for FSSAI. So that is our mandate. But it does not, it should look, in a wholesome basically. Without compromising safety and health, we should, accommodate our interests also.
That is very, that is actually, well taken. And we move into the next slide. So we, in coriander, sir, in coriander, we are giving it because FSSAI is now developing the standard for coriander in codex.
Already developed.
Already developed.
Yes.
So that is an interesting thing that we can now actually see how our standard is acceptable in codex for the coriander. So this is a kind of a area where we would like to see, and I am very happy that we are doing this, because as a for the country it is very good if India starts playing a bigger and better role in standard development and driving the standards across multiple agencies, because once the standard is at a global level, sir, it is also very easy for us to challenge them if developed countries are putting in different kind of scientific standards. So it is very easy for us to challenge. Next slide, please. Now, the point that is happening here is, as you, sir, rightly said, that farmer interest is the basics of every policy making in this country. However, the FSSAI is not having that jurisdiction to the farm, and often farmers are also telling that they are missing out on the training and capacity building, and everybody else is doing training and capacity building on everything else except the food safety standard of this country. So that is one of the core issues here. Of course, I've talked about the limited coverage of spices, etc. So the bigger issue is in terms of laboratory standards of testing. But if you give the same spice to two laboratories, and industry will talk about it a lot more in length than I would, they are coming out with different results. Because there can be multiple reasons. One, they do not have the right people, or they have the right equipment for many things like, testing pungency and other qualitative aspects. Laboratories often do not have the equipment. And that's why they have the basic equipment for testing, and they do that. Now, the problem is, if you test a spice, if you want to get a BIS standard, which is an industry voluntary standard, and you want to get FSSAI standard, your same laboratory results are not working. So you are doing it double testing in the laboratories. All imports are tested by FSSAI approved lab. For export or for domestic standards, why are we following so many laboratories? We are trying to actually synergize the laboratory so that your cost of testing is going down. And if you're selecting a laboratory which is BIS approved and FSSAI approved, you should ideally be doing one test. The seed bale example, you should not be doing multiple testing then. So that's something if we can do, sir, as a part of the testing process, it will reduce the cost of testing and improve the competitiveness of our product to a large extent. Moving towards, this is the process that people avoid to sell loose, unbranded and everything. The process, people are not unwilling to pay the money. Now GST has also gone down for packaged food. So people want to package their food because it's only 5% or something like that. But this testing cost is very high because of this multiple thing. And this is the problem for the conventional spice supply chain. Let me put it down very clearly. Not a problem for organic, because there is a traceability to the farm, and there is an interlinked traceability system which mark everybody from the farm to the. So if it is done for one type of product, it can be done for the other type of product. So next, please. So what we are actually talking about is streamlining the laboratories and streamlining the regulatory process. And if the regulatory process involves a voluntary value addition, please go ahead and do it. Second line is that, of course, the gap in data is a very important thing which has been spoken about. I would strongly recommend that there will be a data. It's need to be a data. Data has to be collected from the farm to the retail. That can only be done by geotagging of the farm in various ways. We have very simple ways in which this is now being done through Arpita and others by clicking pictures and things like that. That can be done in a very rudimentary way. We should start the process where the farmers can actually plug in a picture in their smartphone. They're using it for various things like crop insurance, everything. Now everything can be linked up by a very simple app, farm level app. Now, therefore, now the problem is threefold. One is that if you are following all the processes, testing, clearing, post-harvest, your cost increase by 20 to 25%. In your actually to brand and label a product correctly with all the requirements. And because the moment you label it, you are actually writing down what is the content and what is not the content. It can be easily traced. Now, the adulteration, and the problem is that FPOs, if you go through FPOs, they charge 10-15% more. So nobody is going through FPOs. They're trying to pick it up from the mandi, because FPO is also not giving you a quality guarantee. So they are picking up from the mandi. They are packaging themselves. They are doing their own testing. They are deciding based on the testing, this is what I should keep to India. This is what I'm exporting. So the farmer doesn't know whether his product is for export or the domestic market. So he is not getting value add. And the export market is, there is global rejection, because global rejection, and this is probably the next topic that we will touch upon, is for many reasons. Somebody picks up the product willy-nilly for domestic market, packages and sell it for the export market without understanding the requirement. Because all spices supply chain do not have export control. Some do. Like for pepper, there is an export control. EIC does that. So there are export control processes, but if you put in too many export control processes, you are increasing the cost of your export. You need to put in a process that helps the smoother exports to move through without damaging the reputation of the company. Now, we also discussed the Singapore issue, right? Bigger companies, Everest, MTH, all these companies got caught. They are getting caught in EU. You look at the FSSAI portal, they will say this company, this thing. So what happens is, then you go to the brand. Now this brand is telling, I did not make it for this market. Look at my batch number, this number, because their batch number, this batch number, slot number, all of that number suddenly don't match. So there can be a willfully wrong exporter. There can be an exporter which there can be a manufacturer which does not know that its product has been exported. Now, we don't have an export control system. So therefore, there is a bigger issue which we are handling, which is called parallel export in our next policy brief. This is a pre-marketing of that. Now we move to the next part. So export, if you have a lot of export ideas, please think of that policy brief and give it. Here the idea is mostly to talk about technology, talk about traceability. Technology is now a mandatory requirement. We are treating it as if it is a necessary requirement. It is a mandatory requirement, and it can be part of government schemes and policies. Because if you are taking an incentive for the government, that can be a part that you have to provide the record of the farmers and the processors, etc. It will go down the value chain. So there can be certain mandatory conditions imposed to actually look at technology. But believe me, wherever there is a problem from other countries, like in coffee, the UDR is applicable. Everybody has technology now. MSME, everybody has their, every farmer is now recording, everything is happening. So coffee, tea, you look at all these products. We cannot say there is no technology. Everybody has technology, and these technologies are given free. These apps are given free by the coffee board, tea board. Why not by the spice board to every farmer? So that is my question. So therefore, there is then the FPO we have discussed, so we can move ahead. Now, storage is a big issue. We are giving so much incentive for storage. People are making the warehouses. This is a big problem. When Siraj sir was in Mega Food Park in Ministry of Food Processing, he commissioned us a project. In the morning you go, it is a storage. In the evening you go, it is finished. It is not there. In we had the problem, sir. Prime Minister was visiting Tumkur. Everything was there. From helipad to ATM. Next day, nothing was there. We click picture. It is there, it is not there. So things are like that. So storage is also like that, sir, in this country. So, there is a lot of problem because of bad storage. And this bad storage actually talks about, bringing me to Mr. Siraj Hussein's point, that the bad storage is also bad infrastructure in APMC. And he has a big article saying none of the APMCs are actually meeting any international standards. We don't need to meet, but at least we should have a standard. So that is where we stand. Many a times this capacity and human resource gap is a very big thing. See, post product, if you talk to farmers, they say, "Aap mujhe bata do kya karna hai, I will do." Basically, they are doing their age-old techniques, whether it is spices or whether it is peanuts. All this aflatoxin is because you're washing with water, and then spices is lot in Chennai and other belt, very humid conditions, right, down south. So they are putting it for drying, and they are getting contaminated. So they are asking for new technologies, drying technologies, and all of that, which can be helped and where training can be offered. But the training also has to be very state specific, because each of them are not very happy to also change their own ways of doing things. So within their ways of doing things, we need to really identify low cost and innovative technologies. Now, next point, please. Okay, so let me conclude by saying that the biggest problem is why SME is not moving is a great problem. Why small players are kind of maybe left out of the value chain if they are not brought into a systematic procedure today is another problem. But I think the biggest problem is health and safety, which we don't take into consideration. And when governments start deciding, government is a big procurement agency, and when government start deciding that I am going to procure quality and standard products, which is approved by agencies like FSSAI, I think standards and quality will be implemented. Thank you very much.
Sorry, may I just ask a quick question before we do the release? So, you were mentioning various standards, global standards, FSA. So let me give you an analogy, right? Countries can have different standards depending on their level of income, for example. So if you imagine a very rich country like, let's say, Switzerland, you could have, you could say that if you have an automobile, it needs to have rear cameras on the dashboard. It needs to have seatbelts which are made out of non-hypoallergenic material. The tires need to be padded with some special kind of rubber. These may not be standards that make sense for Brazil or Sri Lanka or for India or for a middle-income country. So I guess my question is, do you think that India should be trying to adhere to the strictest global standards for spices? Or is there room for multiple standards and product differentiation? So, for example, could you have, a higher quality of standards for spices which are destined for the export market, and a separate set of standards for spices that are destined for the local market? You had mentioned that a lot of people who try to formalize their procedures find it difficult to compete with the informal people who don't. But if there's a revealed preference for different sets of standards, then why do we need one common standard? Can we not have product differentiation and different quality standards? Anyway, just an observation, because as an economist, you have to wonder why there should be one standard if there is, in fact, several sets of preferences, not all of which adhere to the utmost standard.
In my opinion, there can be multiple standards. Okay, and there is likely to be in the future also two different standards, one for the domestic market, one for exports. The problem arises when the domestic market standards is not uniformly implemented across all supply chain partners. So somebody is flouting the standards and somebody is going with the standards. So if that is, it's an enforcement issue rather than the standard design issue. So if the standard is enforced properly and implemented properly, then the domestic market will have a uniform standard, and that is a very good standard. Whatever FSSAI designs, as I'm saying, in the, if you look at my two tables, apart from minor problems, you will see how aligned they are with Codex, which is international standards. We need not have European Union standards, but we can drive the standards within Codex for other product category, and we retain our own standards, but our own standards should be followed by all and across within the supply chain. That's the theory.
Can I just add to that?
Can I say something? Mr. Aiyar, we haven't met.
Yes,
I was
welcome.
here 6-7 years. So we do have multiple standards in India also. FSSAI standard is the minimum. Nobody can sell any product below that. But in case of several products, you have slightly higher standards, which is given by AgMark. So, for example, you can buy AgMark Atta,
Which is a branding that you get.
which may be higher,
And
but it is not mandatory.
Yeah.
And sir, I'd also like to add that here we are talking about the health of the person. So it's something which the person is consuming. So
Yes,
there has to be, you cannot say it's like you wear a seat belt. Now, what material the seat belt is made out of?
Yeah, but that's why I raised the issue, for example, of rear view cameras. So, you may say that you must have rear view cameras in cars sold in Burkina Faso. Yes, but that would mean that there would be no domestic market for cars in Burkina Faso because they would be too expensive. So, of course, even with health and safety, presumably there are gradations. Some gradations, even for health reasons, can be considered luxury goods.
But when you're
And some
consuming
not.
something, I think
Like a car?
health is, no, you're not consuming it. That's a safety
Well, you're
issue.
consuming a car, right?
Yeah, it's a safety issue.
No, it's a health and safety is very different from those
Health
kind of
and safety
commodities.
is very different.
So that's the primary criteria basically.
So when they regulate automobiles, they call it health and safety.
Exactly.
Right? So, but again, I'm asking you to imagine whether you think it's okay to ride a car without a rear view camera. I have often done so. I have been in many countries where it's not the rule. And for that particular country and for that particular society, they think that's appropriate. However, for a country like Switzerland, you may say, no, there's no way. It's very dangerous to ride in a car. You see what I mean? So even within health and safety, I'm not sure it's an absolute standard.
The parameter like toxicity, it is universal. One human cannot have different toxicity and another cannot have different
A
toxicity.
German can't have a different toxicity.
Those have to be.
As an Aiyar, you see, standard always vary. Whether it is toxicity, even for poison, there are different standards.
Yeah, but they have standards actually.
Yeah, there are different standards, not uniform.
Yeah.
Nowhere it is uniform. But in the paying capacity of people, you produce ordinary quality product for mass production. If you are exporting your pulses to Africa, you are not so much bothered because paying capacity of people is not that high that paying for standards. So market is always segmented, differentiated as per preference of people and as per their paying capacity. Whatever product we are selling to EU is much more, much better quality and standard compared to domestic market.
Yeah, that
You
is
will not get it even in the south ex.
that is true,
So
sir.
yeah, it depends.
I think the broader point is that societies can rationally have different preferences
Minimum.
for health standards.
But minimum must be met.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it wouldn't kill you.
Minimum.
As Hussain sir, FSSAI is the minimum.
Kill you, but it may be okay if it makes you slightly sick. Whereas in another society, it may not.
As Hussain sir said.
Please.
Then we have to go to the panel. Please,
I'm P.K. Chakravarti. I was former ADG of Plant Protection, ICRIER. I was former member of Universal Scientific Equipment here. And I have been a part of Codex Committee also. I represented India 9 times in Codex Committee on pesticide residue as well as contaminants in food. Here I would like to say, when you are talking about food safety, I don't know whether it's not a subject of today's discussion, because I came when you started, but I must compliment you for a very, very nice presentation and overview. But what I feel when we see all these standards, or all these standards which we discussed at the moment, for microbial contamination, for toxicology, for heavy metal, aflatoxin, these kind of contaminants, everything gets overarched with the contamination from pesticide residue.
Yeah.
One of the biggest thing which is the problem in our country, India is the spice king of the world, and we produce 79 spices out of 109 spices known so far. But if we see these are all plants, and all of them are affected and vulnerable to pests, insect pests and diseases. And you will be very surprised. We have two institutes, Indian Institute of Spice Research and National Research Center for seed spices here in Ajmer, one in Tajipur. So out of these many spices, so far we have only 5 spices on which Codex Committee, we insisted upon Codex Committee, only 5 spices are protected with 8 pesticides and 20 MRLs in the country. Only this one. Sir, we have 554 crops in the country in total, including spices. Hardly 15% are having registered use of pesticide. While farmers are losing day in and day out 40% of all our spices production, but we do not have any pesticide registered in the country. Problem is not this pesticide, because there are 300 companies. One company says, I don't gain by registering a pesticide on spices. The same pesticide might have been registered on wheat for use of loose mud, flax mud, bunt, and whatever. And say one pesticide is there, which is mandatory for use seed treatment. Since industry sells it maybe 10 tons, he says, I am ready to pay 2 crores for taking a registration on that. But the same pesticide, if it causes, it has to be used on coriander. And I am a party to it, because I have seen that as a ADP. My secretary said no, for there. He sent me to Rajasthan, and I found one of the farmers, entire field was dead. He died of a disease called stem gall of coriander. But we do not have the same pesticide which was registered on wheat, which is also effective for coriander, for use on for coriander, not registered. And industry says, I cannot spend 2 crores for taking another label claim on that, by spending another 2 crores, which I spent on wheat, and for getting only 10 kg of my pesticide sold on that. So
ये technical session में सब detail ले आना ना, many other people would also like.
This is very important point,
Yeah.
and we will be discussing this in great detail.
And another, sir, one point I would like to say, European Union, all these countries, whosoever says that Indian spices are laced with pesticide, or they do not have. ETO, which was, as you had discussed, that MGH and all masalas were rejected. So we checked. The same lot, FSSAI immediately took 500 samples. They did not find even a trace of ETO. And ETO is a kind of it evaporates. It goes away.
Yeah, it is not staying for a longer
10 degree is the boiling point of ETO. And how can they find? And immediately after 1 year, the same Hong Kong, its production of pepper became jeera, it exceeded India's. The whole world will count for India.
Sir, I need 5 minutes. We have to release the report, because there are people coming from other places. We will discuss. This is a topic for research, and we are working on it. And it is our next topic. So we are working on this, sir. Let's go for the release. If all of us can go to the back, and everybody has a copy, so we can go there. And I think photo इधर से लेंगे ना, राजकुमार photo कहाँ से लेंगे? फोटोग्राफर कहाँ से लेना चाहते हैं आप फोटो?
कहाँ आएंगे सब? नहीं आ पाएंगे।
नहीं आप
यहीं से ले लीजिए, मैं
यहाँ पे
ले लो।
पीछे वो लगा हुआ है।
You come here, Arpita.
बैकड्रॉप लगा दीजिए।
Backdrop.
And we also have Komal Chauhan with us. Can we have Komal also online?
But Komal will not get captured because we are on this side.
So let us all stand here.
Jai is asking us to come that side. चलिए ask के बगैर नहीं चलिए ऐसा you have to be there as per the order of the lady.
Please come. Anil ji, Virat ji, Raka ji, please come this side. All the panelists, speakers, researchers, please come this side.
Please.
And
Arpita, why don't you
Avi, I have it, but don't.
take center stage?
It's very important that you take center stage.
No, no, no.
This is
Please,
ICRIER
please,
product.
Please come.
इधर हो जाइए
एक मिनट दीजिएगा रिया एंड दीदी
वाले आ जाओ
जो काम कर रहे हैं
Please. I'm standing up here. Come, come, come.
You are the main people. That's something.
थैंक यू
Very spicy.
Yeah.
कोई जाके रंग को बुलाओ तो हमसे that is this. You have to go there, सिराज सर को इधर सामने दे दो चेक करके जगह पे
उनका name plate
थैंक यू we will be in touch.
Yeah, I will be in touch. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
अभी कौन सा सेशन है
पैनल डिस्कशन है
हाँ तो क्लियर करेंगे फिर आज
सिराज जी हाँ सिराज जी इधर आएंगे
तो जरा फोटो खिंच जाएगा तो अच्छा रहेगा अरे क्या कराइए ना आप इधर आइए प्लीज
आप इधर आइए ना आपका नेम प्लेट इधर है
नहीं कोई नहीं किया है नहीं उन्होंने प्लान किया होगा
अर्पिता
अब अर्पिता कौन है हुआ
नहीं I am there sir will be sitting there so there will be lot of people to contribute
no we are asking
यहाँ
the
किसको
Ramesh to come in the
यहाँ
center
आपका नाम लिखा हुआ
सही
है
जगह पे थे सर
अच्छा
आपका तो प्लेट रखा है
इसलिए मुझे लगा
स्टेप
शायद
पे आ
पैनल
जाएगा बस we will start it हाँ अनिल जी आ जाएंगे we will start it. Sir, you can go to the front also. Sit down.
ठीक है
There is lot of-
in fact Mr. Gandhi also can
हाँ
एक मिनट सुनने से तो पहले डेट आए थे
sit comfortably. So, sir, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm sorry I go sir. Seat नहीं there are seats.
इधर भी है
Please come in the front. There are seats. Please come in the front.
Sir is former DDG horticulture from
Yes,
ICRIER,
yes.
doing lot of work on horticulture spices.
Sir, आप इधर बैठिए इधर. सामने.
आ जाइए. So I'm sorry I missed the morning session because I read yesterday's communication not in conjunction with the previous communication, and so I thought we are starting at 11:30. But anyway, thank you so much. So I will skip my remarks by just saying that spices have contributed a lot in Indian history. They took Indians to other countries, Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and they also contributed to colonialism in India. But now we have reached a stage where we have become a big exporter. I must remind Dr. Ramesh Chand something which may be of interest since we have discussed FSSAI in such detail. At one point of time, around between 2010 and 13, FSSAI was of the view that every product variation needed their approval. So if a product has a flavor A and same product has flavor B, their approval is needed. So we kept fighting for years. We went on like this. And finally, when FSSAI had a new chairman, then only it was changed. The rule was changed. So it can be a long haul for industry to remain within the limits of FSSAI. So let me begin by asking Dr. Arvind Kumar that this study has found that there are 45 standards only, while there are some 75 spices which are produced in India. So what is the reason for not having standards for others? And do we have BIS or AgMart standard for others?
Yes. Actually, FSSAI has a standard procedure for setting up the standards. So we do, fix the standards by taking, criterias of first thing we prioritize. We prioritize the commodity based on, our national production, trade volumes, and then public health risk is the prime. So prioritization is done initially, and then we do scientific deliberation. So we have panels which evaluates the data, collect literature. We work with the, with different institutes and look on the safety parameters like moisture, total S, extraneous matter, volatile oil. And then we do validation. After, proper scientific deliberation, FSSAI do the validation. The draft is validated by scientific committee. And then it is approved by food authority. And then what we do, we put it into public domains for their consultation, and then we finalize. So these are the steps basically. And as far as only 45 spaces being standardized, so we have to, look into this. Out of the 75, what we call, we have two kinds of standards. One is horizontal standards, and another is vertical standards, what we call. So these 45 spaces, they come under this vertical standards. So which have some specific, like how much volatile oil should be, how much moisture should be. So these are the critical parameters. And this doesn't mean other 30 spaces are beyond the FSSAI regulations. Okay, so they have to comply with all the FSSAI regulations like heavy metal, residues, pesticides, and other things. So this is a misconception that these 35 standards are not being considered by FSSAI. So FSSAI is looking all the spaces.
Which means there are standards for all 75.
Yeah, they have to comply. Yes.
No.
Comply against what?
Actually, they have to comply with the minimum standards, this critical parameters. What I said, this heavy metals, toxicity, and all these things. So they are not into the list, but they
have to comply with the standards which are applicable to these 45.
Yes.
They have to comply with these all.
With these also.
But is it clear to everyone? Does the industry know this? Anyone from industry?
Yes, sir.
Actually,
is it in your knowledge that you have to comply with the standards which are applicable to these 45?
So I think FSSAI set standards for spices, and the standards set by FSSAI are not in conjunction with the ground realities.
There are two things, sir.
So-
FSSAI and BIS both. So we are aware of FSSAI standards kahan hai aur BIS kahan hai. What we are asking, what we all are asking is that the other 30 that are remaining, that should also be an FSSAI. We keep coming for the
Madam, he is saying that
The industry is not aware of this, sir.
We are aware.
He's saying that the standards which are there for 45 are also applicable to others.
No, they are
He's not saying that.
They are
तो कह रहे हैं
not.
आप?
I am
नहीं,
not
नहीं,
saying.
नहीं.
I am saying that these horizontal standards, they should also comply vertical standards in terms of heavy metals, pesticides, residues, and microbial contaminations.
For the other 30 also.
For other 30 also.
So if, but horizontal standard means, say, contaminant standards. They apply across all food products. So there is in FSI licensing, there is a regulation which is product characteristic regulation, a
Right.
huge regulation, product by product there are. But there are more regulations beyond that. For example, licensing
Ingredients.
licensing regulation requires GMP to be implemented. That's across all food. Similarly, contaminants, that's a horizontal regulation. It applies across all foods. There is a labeling regulation
Yes.
that applies across all food. So what the study is saying is, and what he's saying is, 45 vertical standards are available for 45 spices. But if they are not available for rest 30, does not mean those 30 are unregulated. Those 30 have to meet the contaminant standard, have to meet licensing standard, means GMP, they have to meet the labeling standard. So there are still standards applicable to them, even if vertical standards are not available.
What he's saying is that spice specific standards that does not
Yes.
exist.
Yes.
मतलब अगर आप इसके साथ if you compare with spice board, they have it for more commodities. So spice specific standards does not exist. That is the point.
Okay, it
And
is clear.
other one point
think industry understands.
I would like to mention is FSSA avoid over-regulating minor species. So that, you know, with vertical standards, because of their commercial trade volume is not that much.
नहीं, वो
Okay.
ठीक है.
And it is not justifying.
So
Yeah.
there is one point here. I don't know whether it is ripe at this time. Like some of these standards which have been fixed here, they are debatable also.
नहीं, वो तो फिर एक अलग है because
That is
beyond the scope of today's discussion.
That is
another
what I
issue
asked.
which we are
No, that's a
harmonizing.
separate
That's
question.
वो तो अलग है. So can we take Dr. Komal Chauhan now?
Yes.
Are you there,
Has he
madam?
finished?
Yes.
Sir,
Komal ji, are you there? Anu, Komal ji? Somebody has to open the. इसको unmute करो. Komal.
In the meantime, we come to Dr. Johari.
Komal ji is there. Unmute.
Komal
करो
has
ना.
unmuted herself.
You have to.
She has
Komal ji, can you unmute yourself? Okay, Anu. Okay, by that time, let's go to the next speaker and we come back.
Yes, Dr. Anil Johari. In the meantime, you can send her a mail or
Anu is ready.
message.
Connect to Komal ji.
So in the previous session, she was talking about set of laboratories. But FSSAI already has accredited laboratories. FSSAI is accredited so many
Notified,
laboratories.
yeah,
Many
okay,
of them have
that-
availed
Use the
grant from
different term, notified laboratories.
notified
Yeah.
laboratories. Okay. So then what is the problem of BIS? Why is BIS not accepting that list of notified laboratories?
Actually,
Dr.
I'm a
Johari.
bit surprised at this question itself because I worked in BIS incidentally for many years and handled the lab requisition scheme myself. So BIS lab requisition scheme is specifically for products which are under BIS certification. If it doesn't certify a product, it doesn't approve it. It doesn't have to. It's a support service for its product certifications. So I'm surprised if spices are under voluntary certification. I couldn't find out, and I need to check this part. Whether if somebody is going for certification of BIS for spices, otherwise they will not need spices laboratories. They should not need spices laboratories. For example, to give you an example, FSI had made it compulsory earlier and now revoked that compulsion that all bottled water should be certified by BIS. So BIS needed water labs because when it picks up samples, you will send it to some independent lab. Can't have its own facility, so it's a huge lab requisition scheme. But now water has been brought out of the purview. It is likely that, or to give you a previous example, in 1986, Vanaspati was brought under compulsory BIS certification because of the animal tallow scandal. Later on, that certification was withdrawn. Today, not a single Vanaspati unit is having BIS certification. Well, they don't feel the need. They are covered by FSI, and that's good enough. So I'm surprised that there's a question like this because let us be very clear on because there's a confusion in terms of role clarity. I wish Food Standards and Safety Authority, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India was not named this, was named Food Safety Authority of India. And term standards was not there.
Actually, वो तो parliament में बहुत debate
Yeah.
हुआ था. It was a long drawn process.
Personally, don't use the term standard all the time. I use the term regulations and standards, which makes it very clear. Regulation is by law, standard is voluntary. That's how the West understands today. So when I talk of food authority, I would talk of food regulation and not food standards, so that there's no confusion that whatever regulation is there is mandatory. Food authority has a provision to notify labs. It notifies labs based on NABL. As of today, it notifies labs based on NABL accreditation for the purpose of its regulation. BIS has a lab regulation scheme, which is for the purpose of its own product certification scheme.
Understood.
So therefore, I would be surprised if BIS needs a lab for spices. BIS does not need a lab for spices if it is not certifying spices.
Good.
And to my mind, it's not certifying spices.
Yes.
So there should be no confusion on this score.
Fine.
BIS only has labs approved for the purpose of their own product certification. Unless a spice manufacturer goes and says, I want to get certified, they will not approve a lab.
So,
they
madam,
don't need one.
for exporters, what is the certification requirement accepted by for?
First, ask a question that suppose if I get my product certified in BIS lab today, in certain BIS lab, it's not like all of them are not overlapping. As you can see from our paper, in some BIS lab, if I get my product, if I take my product to be certified, can I sell it in the domestic market?
First thing,
NABL certified. NABL certified.
No, hold on. Bichi asked a question about BIS. First thing, BIS labs are a support service for product certification. BIS labs receive samples only when they're picked up by BIS. Or there's a scheme which says you go to a BIS recognized lab and produce a report to us. For example, there's a registration scheme to its product. Therefore, as a manufacturer, I don't have the freedom to go to BIS and get my sample tested. Because BIS only tests sample, either it picks up itself and then sends to the labs, or if there is a scheme which says, okay, you can go to a BIS approved lab, bring the test report to me and I'll grant you certification. So therefore, there's no open option for a manufacturer to go to BIS lab and get.
No, I'm not giving it an open option. What I'm trying to say is that suppose these are the set of laboratories certified by FSSAI. There is an overlap between them. It is like a Venn diagram, right? There is an overlap between the FSSAI laboratories and BIS laboratories. There is an open-end set of laboratories which is neither certified by FSSAI is not certified, where manufacturer is also going to test the food because they don't know what to do. It may not be the process, but they
As far as the manufacturer are concerned, they should be looking at FSSAI notified labs and nothing else.
Only those.
That's
And
all.
they are doing
That's
it
all.
already.
Yeah, that's
Nobody goes to a non-FSSAI lab.
And please remember also that both FSSAI and BIS are basing their recognition or approval on NABL accreditation in any case.
No, madam, what happens for exporters?
exporters have to buy it depend upon the product category.
For example, for rice, the exporters need certificate of
EIC.
EIC. No? So is there,
These are nowadays because of the trace net.
so is there a similar dispensation for spices?
For black pepper, there is a notification, EIC notification. Black pepper, you can get a this thing. EIC regulates certain amount of products. Regulates means.
Which kind of carries?
So first, I would like to.
I worked 3 years in EIC, so I can
Before
tell
I come to the exports part, one question for you, sir. So as Arpita mentioned, so does BIS have the mandate or the authority, apart from FSSAI, to pick up samples from the market and test them and then see whether they are pass or fail?
BIS will only pick up samples if they are ISI marked, otherwise no. BIS never picks up samples without ISI mark.
So in spices,
no
ISI is
reason-
not needed.
Yes, not needed, yes. Who's saying it's needed?
So that one thing is clear.
Yeah, FSSAI only,
Yes, I'm saying that
they have certified laboratories and they do it.
BIS will not pick up a sample unless there is use of ISI mark. That's their authority because ISI mark is theirs. That's it. Beyond ISI mark, we never pick up sample.
That's very big.
So we go to Dr. Komal Chauhan now. Are you there, doctor?
Yeah, she just joined.
Yeah, she did join.
Yes, sir. A very
Okay.
good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. So, Dr. Chauhan, you have been working in NIFTEM on various post-harvest technologies, packaging, etc., which can enhance the shelf life and reduce contamination. So, anything specific you would like to mention which NIFTEM has done for spices?
Yes, sir. First of all, I would like to thank ICRIER for organizing this high-level expert consultation and inviting me for this event. And my apologies for not joining in physical mode due to some other commitments. So NIFTM is working in the area of spices since long, especially for the post-harvest technologies in the area of research like drying, grinding, cryogenic milling, and microencapsulation for flavor retention as well as for processing, preserving of the volatile compounds. And we are like working in the area of research for the new product development for the formulating different spice blends, seasonings, ready to use spices, ready to cook spice formulations, and also the natural spice extracts. The characterization and the complete profiling of the spices, its essential oils is being done at NIFTM. And there was a specific, special research is being carried out by different faculties under which the research projects are being undertaken. Like, for example, we had taken for the red chili powder, where we had seen the 100% reduction was achieved through hurdle technology, which is a very cost-effective treatment and was used as an alternate for the ETO. Wherein the individual and a combination of the treatments were taken, like for the example, UV radiation, infrared radiation, and chlorine dioxide was used. IR, like infrared and the chlorine dioxide was used for the penetration, as well as UV radiation was used for the surface removal or reduction of the contaminants. So we achieved 100% reduction. It was like done on the lab scale initially, and now we are trying to scale it up for the pilot and the industrial scale. And there was as a result, no change was observed in any of the color attributes, the quality or the sensory attributes. And the papers have been published in this area. And we are also in the process of developing some rapid kits where the adulterants can be detected directly at the field level also. And for other areas, like for the quality evaluation, we are having a food testing lab, which is a reference lab, primary, referral, and a reference lab. And we also have this testing of the spices under NABL scope for various parameters that we are doing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is your lab approved by FSSAI?
Yes, sir. It has an integrated assessment of that.
Fine. Because you see this, let us not go into that, but we can remember the Nestle case, where crores of material had to be destroyed. And finally, the Supreme Court said that, there was no contamination.
That was overreach.
Extreme overreach.
Extreme
Now,
overreach.
Dr. Seema Puri, you've been working closely with FSSAI. So this report said at one place that 67% of total spice market is sold in package form. At another place, they said 60 to 80% is in informal sector. So what is the correct position?
I think Arpita would be the best person to say that.
So
What does he mean by it?
I have only talked about, one is about the total market and one is about the food segment.
No, so the unorganized sector is the food segment.
No, unorganized is the total, because
67% packaged is not possible. I don't think it is possible that 67%
I
of
think from the industry perspective, even a lot of spices are sold in packets in an unorganized sector.
plastic
Plastic में लगा के sticker चिपका दिया and it's done.
Okay.
It's done that way.
package तो नहीं माना जाएगा ना, unless there is
Package नहीं माना
labeling.
जाएगा, but this is probably
जब
the
तक labeling
67.
नहीं हो तो क्या packaging? Anyway, so
Yeah, so in fact, I was coming to that.
आप बताइए कि what is the ground reality, because you have been working on the ground also. What is the ground reality of spices which are sold in the informal sector?
So actually, so the problem, like Sir said, is that if it's a properly packaged product, you would have a label and you would have certain norms, testing and all, which they would have done. And the quality is assured, and maybe an FSSAI mark is mandatory. But mostly spices, in fact, we have a lot of self-help groups. We have a lot of NGOs which are grinding spices themselves just packaging them in a polythene and just selling them. And there is no testing of that. And in fact, we were discussing, Arpita and me, that in many government programs like the ICDS or the midday meal, while the guidelines do say that the spices included should be in a packaged form, but they only say it should have an AgMark certification. It doesn't say anything beyond that about FSSAI. And it also says that if the implementing agency is a centralized kitchen or a self-help group, they can only use these AgMark certified ingredients, and they should be stored in airtight containers. That's the only guideline which is given. And therefore, the problem that comes in is that when these self-help groups or these smaller organizations are using these spices, even for the government programs, there is no certification behind it. And, pesticide residues, maybe from the farm to even to the grinding process, to the packaging process, or even just adding loose, there is no regulation. And that's a major problem. And of course, then the compliance issue comes in, that even if we do insist, presently the guidelines for these programs does not, it only has the word AgMark certified. So that's one thing that needs to be included, that we need to have an FSSAI certification. The issue of labs, we've already discussed that it should be standardized testing. But what is more important is that these smaller self-help groups, how do we ensure that those spices are tested? So either the organization who has been given this contract for cooking the food, for supplying to ICDS or midday meal, should take certification of spices at that level if they are procuring locally or a small scale industry. We are also promoting that when we are talking about self-help groups. There has to be a mechanism first defined and then, of course, complied with.
Okay, so now in the second round, sir, there is no question from my side.
Yeah.
So far, you have heard the discussion. Whatever else you'd like to add? Dr. Gandhi. I'm sorry. Ji, Mr. Gandhi, ये बताइए कि where is it located, the federation?
So, I head the Federation of Indian Spice Stakeholders. We have a head office in Unja, which is Asia's largest spices mandi. And I think Arpita has attended one of our event this year. And what we normally do is we cater to the industry. We bring the industry on one platform, right from the farmers to the manufacturers, to exporters, to traders, and to brokers. So what we are a platform, our main objective, if you may say, is to align every aspect of the industry, be it the government, be it agencies like FSSAI, be it the labs, and try and get a collaborative effort as this meeting organized by ICRIER. We must harmonize everything so that the train can run smoothly. From what we are doing is we're trying to align with the various agencies, and also we are trying to train farmers from our end for good agricultural practices. But in India, sir, the main problem that we face in India is the small land ownership of the farmers. If you go to US, you go to other countries, Western countries, each farmer has about 500 acres, 600,000 acres.
मगर हमारे यहाँ भी तो grapes में meet करते हैं ना farmers, EU के norms.
Sir, वैसे तो spices में भी होता है.
अच्छा, ये मेरा एक question और है.
यदि आप permit करें.
Yes, sir.
You see, this I hear about this as a reason for being less competitive. All spice exporters, their farm size is lower than us.
Right.
Look at farm size in Vietnam. Look at farm size in Indonesia. Look at farm size in China. It is less than what is our farm size. Please do not use this as an excuse.
No.
There are ways to overcome the scale disadvantage of being a small holder. अब किसी के पास 100 मीटर जमीन है गवर्नमेंट से पैसे लेने के लिए, he is not a farmer. He is not a producer who can be considered a commercial producer. जो pulses produce करता है, it is a commercial crop. उसका कुछ scale तो होना चाहिए ना. उस scale में you face problem in marketing, which can be overcome by producers group, FPO, cooperative. Those are the ways. Or why don't we look at that our biggest competition come from Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Indonesia, China in these kind of commodities? वहाँ कैसे वो USA का farmer आ गया, 1000 एकड़ वाला या ब्राजील का farmer आ गया? Do they compete with us in Jeera, which you are exporting? I mean, ये एक realistic example लेनी चाहिए. ये these are
हमारे फार्मर्स ने अचीव किया भी है ना, देखिए ग्रेन तो बहुत अच्छे
examples. सभी में किया है.
राइस में भी बासमती में अब काफी हद तक कर लिया है, बासमती फार्मर्स को ट्रेन करके इंडस्ट्री ने. ये बताइए, मेरा एक क्वेश्चन और था, आई एम सॉरी, ये बताइए, हमने तो FISS का नाम ही पहली बार सुना और ISMA का तो इतना नाम सुनते हैं. तो आप जरा कुछ अपना प्रोफाइल तो बढ़ाइए दिल्ली में.
सर बढ़ाते हैं ना. We have a midterm meet in Delhi in October. It's September. We are having a about a gathering of 150.
स्टैटिस्टिक्स शेयर किया था, वो ये है कि हम जितना स्पाइस पे पर मंथ एक्सपेंडिचर करता है इंडियन कंज्यूमर, वो पल्सेस से भी ज्यादा है.
प्लस शुगर से.
अच्छा, प्लस शुगर ओके. और इसमें जो इतना स्मॉल कमोडिटी है, दे हैव सो मच प्रेजेंस, और आप इतने 9% ऑफ क्रॉप सेक्टर आपका है शेयर. थोड़ा इस एस्पेक्ट को
तो प्रोफाइल बढ़ाइए साहब दिल्ली में.
नहीं सर, हम लोग
ICRIER के साथ मिलके आप बड़ा सा एक कन्वेंशन करिए.
definitely sir. We are organizing. And sir, give you a little bit of background. Our association was formed just about 10 years ago. So what was happening is all the spice-based notifications or whatever was there, it was there in the south from Spices Board of India, and the major seed spices producing states were Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Gujarat. These were the three main seeds producing spices country, where we had no role in the Spices Board. So we thought to, vocalize our voice, we had to form this association. That every spiced, the entire spice community comes on one platform. There is a spice association in South. There is a spice association in Mumbai. But we, in 10 years, what we have achieved, I think, Arpita would be more because she attended, I think. And we, what was being discussed about the crops going on the field when she was presenting. We go on the field every year, sir. Right? We go on the field every year. We conduct crop surveys. Our crop surveys are conducted for nearly 1.5 months. We all.
तो आपके प्रोडक्शन एस्टिमेट सही निकलते हैं?
हाँ सर. So DASD uses our data. So government uses our data. We are the only organization in the country that gives an official crop survey data for 4 or 5 crops.
Because what happens, at least in case of sugarcane, that they give one estimate, government says this is not correct. Same thing in cotton. Anyway, so thank you.
Sir, there is one speaker, Dr. Nair, who is in the FSSAI committee as well. She wants to speak. So
आप पूछिए मैडम उनसे कोई क्वेश्चन. आप ही पूछ लीजिए.
She wants to speak. So
she wants to comment. She wants to ask or comment. Yes, please.
So Dr. Nair, we are not able to get her. Anu, put her on speaker.
There she is there.
She's there, but she's declining our offer to speak, basically.
Okay. So then why are you inviting her?
No, she raised her hand.
No, actually, you were moving her to panel. Maybe she wants to speak only as an audience.
Okay.
No, we are not moving her to panel. That's the way she has to speak. Because
She did raise her hand.
she did raise her hand and she's not putting it on chart and she's writing WhatsApp. So we are trying to help her
कोई
out.
बात नहीं. Let us go back to Dr. Arvind Kumar.
Yes,
Doctor साहब,
yes.
आपने सबको सुन लिया, इतना लंबा सुबह से आप सुन रहे हैं. Anything else which you would like to add?
Okay, she wants to speak. Let her complete her thing because she is putting her hands up for a long, long time.
Ma'am, you can speak. You can unmute and you can speak.
उनको unmute कर दो ना पहले.
अरे नहीं तो स्पीकर पे डाल के इधर डाल दो ना. It is much easier.
नहीं करती.
डॉक्टर नायर कहाँ से बोल रही हैं?
बड़ौदा.
बड़ौदा से.
वो फरमाइए मैडम.
स्पीकर पे डाल दो ना अनु.
She's chair of the fortification panel.
Please speak.
She's chair of the fortification panel.
Yeah, please speak. We can hear you. We have put you on the mobile.
Yeah, ma'am, you can speak right now.
चलिए, we can come back to her. We can come back to her a little later.
Some problem.
हाँ, डॉक्टर साहब आप बताइए जो.
She's unmuting herself.
डॉक्टर साहब, ये जो डिस्कशन हुआ है उसमें anything which has been missed, and which you think people should know?
Yeah, basically what we deliberated is, what. Yeah.
Anu, please.
Recording करके भेज दें.
Recording करके भेजने
So can I लिख के भेज दे अपना question?
What I understood is, we lack database actually for most of the things. We don't have, we need aggressive data generation as far as to counter this global issues and all these things. We should have a very
And reliable data.
reliable data from agricultural institutes, industries, private place, whosoever actually. There should be a good mechanism to collect good data and to interpret and to put into our spices kind of things. And then we need to expand our scopes. We need to expand our scope in developing global standards for value-added products also. What I feel is, maybe spices, oils, and global markets transitions, processed culinary herbs are coming into the market. Actually, we need to, broaden our standards, right? And then engage. What I feel is small holders, as Arpita madam also, right from the root actually. Farmers basically, how to protect, how to produce, they should know basically
Who should do it?
what they have produced.
Who should be doing it?
Maybe agricultural universities or the state governments, they are the best placed actually. They can have some nodal agencies to work with the farmers, which can connect with the institutes actually. They are not anytime connected to any research institute, laboratories. They don't know what they are producing basically. So how much is the pesticide?
मगर जो spice producing centers हैं, districts हैं, वहाँ के KVK वगैरह involve होते होंगे ना?
Sir, KVK involved होते हैं. They are more of a research center than anything else. When we do our crop surveys, we involve the KVK students to go on the field with expert guidance, and that's how we train students. But KVK, I think recently they've also developed some laboratories for testing of the pesticides and all what norms are there.
There's one AICRP, All India Coordinated Research Project.
तो डॉक्टर साहब, I will come to that. I will end this session with that. वो तो मेरे बहुत interest की चीज है.
उनके पास KVKs है sir, and they are connected with IASR and NRCSS, Jaipur and all. So definitely they have to be streamlined. But whenever such kind of things are, we hurl everything on KVK. चाहे वो कोई pesticide का हुआ, KVK करेगा. चाहे कोई demonstration का होगा, KVK करेगा. So they need to have some kind of alliance from this thing.
And then this technology dissemination actually. I don't think they are aware with the recent or latest technologies because they need primary storage and primary drying, all these things.
Small, plant करते हैं, and then that's the research that they're doing.
731 KVKs are there.
ठीक है. Dr. Nair, please go ahead.
Yes, I speak with.
Dr. Nair, are you able to speak now?
Yes, I am able to speak now.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to give certain clarifications. We had few meetings at the scientific committee. So the scientific committee had a long elaboration on the MRLs which were to be decided for the Indian condiments and spices. Since the discussion was happening, there have been a revision which has been carried out, and that was to give the minimal levels which was permitted, and it is revised as per guidelines from Codex as well as WHO and the Indian standards which were followed. So we have now made a long list of all of these. All these have been passed in the scientific committee, in the 54th scientific committee, at best of my memory. And Mr. Paresh Rawal, who was the scientific chair for this, has made a big presentation to all of us in the committee, and that has been approved. So all the spices and condiments have been completely revised and with MRLs. This is specifically with MRLs. So those minimum guidelines, everything has to be followed as per those minimum guidelines. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I want to say. Sir,
Sir,
sir, I'm from Agmar, sir. we have 28 commodities coming under APGM Act, sir, Participating in Marking Act. Usme, sir, we have 11 laboratories, regional AgMark laboratories, and as well as central AgMark laboratories, which mostly enable accredited. And the domestic trade हो रहा है वो AgMark certification में हो रहा है, that is the third party.
Spices के AgMark standards हैं?
Yes, sir.
Standards हैं, sir.
We could not compare because AgMark standard is lower than FSSAI.
No, cannot be lower than FSSAI.
उससे higher हो
standard से कभी lower नहीं हो सकता.
It's not possible. Yes, it's not possible.
Legal.
It will be illegal. It is not acceptable.
It will be illegal.
AgMark standards are better than FSSAI.
Like FSSAI and AgMark.
अच्छा, चलिए, let us go to Dr. Chauhan.
Instead of BIS, I think we need to align FSSAI and AgMark.
We actually have that in a table. We can show it.
Let us go to Dr. Chauhan. Would you like to say something?
Yes, sir. Regarding the capacity building, I would like to add on, like NIFTM has this mandate on this creating the task force. I would suggest if we have like national task force for other commodities, we should also have a task force for spices. And I fully agree with that database in context to India is missing. Though we have like global databases are there, but in context to Indian scenario, we are missing in that. And NIFTM is also providing different kinds of consultancy for setting up. Like we had a collaboration with Rajasthan Spice and Marketing Board where we were supposed to set up 9 labs in varied regions of Rajasthan. And some of the labs were to be upgraded for this NABL itself. So these kinds of things or initiatives are being taken by NIFTM. So other institutes can also contribute in the same area.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Dr. Johari.
Yeah, a couple of issues.
Anything which has not been said and which we should know?
Yes. 2 parts. One is there was a question about labs being, not uniformly available across different states. We should understand the problem. Labs in private sector will come up where the production is and volumes are. They will not come up in areas where there's little production and little volume. I mean, I did a study for Bhutan last year for Asian Development Bank, and I came to a conclusion that Bhutan government, it needs to invest in labs because private sector will not come in. There's no industry, only imports is taking place. The volumes are very low. 5 samples saal mein test karne kaun lab lagayega? Same problem we are facing in medical devices where we are 80% import dependent. There are very few medical devices where we are producing a lot, like syringes or PPEs or N95 masks. 4 manufacturer ventilator के हैं, आपको टेस्ट तो करना है क्योंकि आप रेगुलेट कर रहे हैं. लैब कौन लगाएगा? So government needs to invest. So one point that should be very clear that if you want to, only government can invest money without looking for returns. Private sector will not come in unless there are volumes and there's profit. So in these states that you're talking about where there is lack of labs, please talk to labs like, I don't know whether AgMark will be able to invest money or NTH National Test House. The governmental labs, can they set up lab to service the needs of those states, not looking for profit motive, which is not.
FTL तो हर state में है ना, ये food testing lab state government की है.
इसके जो देखिए food testing और spice testing में कुछ there has to be lab with the with written that it is capability to test spice. Mukherjee is telling that
there can be difference. I understand. Sometimes there can be difference between food to food products. So that is one part which I would like to make clear, that if you are looking for labs, even spread of labs, it will not happen by private sector investment.
Government should
government has to recognize, the state government, local has to recognize, the central government has to recognize
basically
that in certain sectors, in certain areas of India, because there is very little production, labs will not come up in private sector, and therefore you need to invest in labs. That's one part. Second part is AgMark. Now, good that they are there. I spoke to somebody in AgMark to get a clarity on AgMark certification. I was clear that it can't be below FSI standard. This clarity in our country on regulations and standards, which is missing. We keep on mixing regulations and standards. So that's why I use the term regulations and standards. I don't use the term FSI standard. I would say FSI regulation, period, because they are mandatory by law. Is there a place for voluntary standards in food sector? To my mind, yes, there is place for voluntary standards in food sector, which can be which have to be regulation plus. They cannot be below regulation because that's the law of the land. All over the world there are standards.
वॉलंटरी स्टैंडर्ड्स के लिए एग मार्क है तो
वही कह रहा हूँ ना, वही कह रहा हूँ ना, क्योंकि सिंगल स्टैंडर्ड की बात हो रही है, सिंगल नोडल एजेंसी की बात हो रही है. What I am saying is that as a country, we cannot do with a single standard. It's not possible to do with a single standard. We can do with a single regulation. Yes, it should be there. Yes, regulation should be there. But when we are meeting needs of different stakeholders, there will be need for some market-driven standard. Even for export, for example, even if you adopt Codex standards, you harmonize with Codex standard. SPS agreement allows countries to have, based on scientific justification, to have stricter standards than Codex. And US and EC have done it
for so many things.
So many other things. So in any case, if you are going to export to EC and if you are going to export to US, you will have to stick to higher standards. There's no option. Now, so my questions to somebody would be, why not allow me, if I am a manufacturer who can export to US with a higher standard, why don't you allow me that product differentiation in local market also? I can claim that I'm meeting higher standards.
Egg mark. So basically, what you are saying is that egg mark should come out
to my mind, yes.
यहाँ तो so many consumers, people like us, fortunate, lucky people like us, can pay more.
Yes.
You know, actually, premiumization is taking place in all other food items, etc. So maybe for spices also.
Yes, so there is to me, there is clarity should be there that there is room for voluntary standards even in regulated sectors. Single regulation, but voluntary standards, yes.
जौहरी साहब उसको तो मना तो कोई नहीं करेगा.
थोड़ा इस रिपोर्ट में आ रहा है ना कि एक सिंगल एजेंसी होना चाहिए, सिंगल स्टैंडर्ड होना चाहिए.
Because the fact that post-COVID, everybody was saying the spices have gone up because everybody is concerned about wellness and the beneficial effects. So then, if there is a premium, like the turmeric, now everybody wants to buy the high curcumin content because
15 years ago, I created at the behest of Ministry of Ayush and Ayush Premium Mark and Ayush Standard Mark, available in local market.
Spices are used in
where standard mark was on domestic regulatory requirements, premium mark was on WHO GMP and contaminants.
Let me explain, Siraj sir, this point. When you go to another country like European Union,
Hello.
जो European, 1 minute please. जब आप European Union में जाते हैं, the basic standard that flows all through is the standard that is set by the Food Safety Authority of that country. That's the basic minimum mandatory standards. Other standards which are there are over and above the basic minimum standards, may look at other elements of the requirements. For example, in Chile, you may look at pungency and other elements which are not directly related to food safety. And that's what our report says, that can be thought through about who is going to set the standards. You may look at color, other elements like packaging design. You have other elements in the entire storyline which is looked after by other agencies. There may be third agency which is looking after many other things like rainforest alliance certified.
मैडम और मत क्रिएट कराइए एजेंसी.
Minimum standard एक FSSAI set करे, उसके ऊपर
2 standards are enough, one by FSSAI and one by EGMARC for food.
Can I come in?
Can I come in, please? Who is that?
Komal.
Yeah, Dr. Chauhan. Sir, I would like to add one thing more. Like we need to strengthen the lab people also, because there are variations at each level. Whenever the samples go, even the same sample goes to different labs, there would be variation in the results. So probably a kind of training or strengthening of these lab peoples has to be taken on the priority.
No, but NABL is supposed to take care of that issue.
No, NABL will not train.
The training is not.
NABL certification will come only when
there are competent.
Trained people, competent people in the lab.
Yes, usually yes. But can I add something? You know, we work in silos. We are very typical country which works in absolute silos. We have created a huge skill ecosystems in the country. 38 skill councils are there, including a food and agriculture. Hardly any of them has focused on preparing professionals or training professionals for standards, implementation of standards. So this is a question I would direct to FICSI, that they should create an ecosystem. They have a mandate to certify professionals. They have a mandate to certify training providers. Why not do for testing people?
कुछ महीने लेट हो गए, वरना सर के बताते आप. ये तो सर का इसको चेक मार्क.
Actually, I have one suggestion.
आप बताइए, एक मार्क से बता दीजिए.
Hello. Sir, can you hear me? May I come in, please?
we have.
Hello?
1 minute.
Charges,
Yeah.
we have identified. Any hacker, anybody wants to test.
Sir, can you hear me?
Pay the charge and we can get it
ये
tested.
है कहानी सर, आप ये है करेक्ट कहानी कि हमारा सिस्टम है मगर उसमें एडिशनल चार्ज डालिए, एफएसएसआई का लैब में एडिशनल चार्ज डालिए, जहां पे आप चार्ज डालोगे सब कुछ हो जाएगा। अब ये जो इंडस्ट्री कह रहा है मैं 5 जगह पे जाके क्यों चार्ज डालूं, ये है दूसरी कहानी। ठीक है,
इंडस्ट्री कौन कह रहा है कि 5 जगह जाएगी?
वो एक ही जगह जाएगी।
कौन कह रहा है? इंडस्ट्री को कौन कह रहा है 5 जगह जाएगी?
जो क्वेश्चन पूछ रही हूँ, एक्मा का सर्टिफिकेट एनईबीएल अप्रूव्ड लैब है,
हमारा NABL accredited lab है,
हाँ।
and also AGMAR certificates are it is acceptable in European countries.
We are not discussing that here. She raised
Yes.
a very valid point that different laboratories are giving different test results. That can be for 2 reasons.
मैडम उसका सोल्यूशन नहीं है। आप ब्लड टेस्ट कराने जाएंगे 2 रिजल्ट आएंगे तो क्या करेंगे?
इसका चाहिए तो रीजन सर।
Calibration of the machine, so
उसका तो कोई
many
मशीन
things.
का कैलिब्रेशन है।
एग्जैक्ट रीजन बाय दिस
हाँ, ऑपरेशनल इशू है। तो सुनिए।
Hello?
May I just come in, please?
Yes, Karthik.
Hello?
Yes, who is that?
Mr.
Karthik.
Karthik and Ram Kumar.
Yeah, this is
Karthik,
Karthik from
please
Eshana.
go forward, then Ram Kumar Menon, please.
Yeah. Hello? Shall I continue?
Yes, please continue.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. So nice to see the dignitaries under immense discussion on the topic ensuring food safety and standards for domestic market. So it's so there are various points which we have discussed here. I'm just observing the meeting from beginning. So apart from all the issues which we have discussed, the major issue which we are currently facing for years, decades together is adulteration. So, I mean, what steps we are going to take to stop this adulteration is a big question mark. So it is not only in spices, in tea, in all the commodities you have adulteration in full-fledged. It is happening in it is not, I mean, please don't think it is happening only in an unorganized market. It is happening in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. In all the cities, it is there. In spices like cumin, fennel, even in coriander, in all the spices, adulteration is happening. And it is not only it's a national issue, it's an international problem. And you can find adulterated fennel in many of the places, even in Dubai. Used as a mouth freshener in fennel, that is not at all a natural one. So this is a fundamental problem and more dangerous and I mean, it's issue
understood.
Rather we are talking about
Mr. Karthik.
pesticide issues. These are, and it all comes under the next. It's we totally agree, but this we cannot able to I mean leave out as such. So this is the point which I want to register here. And what shall we do to stop this one?
Thank you, Karthik. Let's move to Ram Kumar Menon because we are also running a bit out of time.
Yes.
Ram Kumar Menon ji, your point, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Ram Kumar Menon from the All India Spices Exporters Forum and also from the World Spice Organization, which is the technical arm of the forum. Dr. Nair raised a point about MRLs, a large number of MRLs being established. But this was, it was done in September 2024, and it was put out in the public domain. And after that, we all gave our comments, but nothing has happened after that. Actually, there has been no establishment of MRLs. At this point of time, there are very limited MRLs, which are available for spices. And that is creating major issues for us, both in the domestic market and in the export market. So I understand that, again, there has been some discussion in FSSAI and CIBRC, where they are planning to come out with a list, but so far nothing has happened. That is one point I would like to make, sir. The second point is, we were talking about AGMARC and FSSAI and, various agencies involved in, coming out with standards. As an industry, we would prefer to work with just one standard. Why do we have so many standards?
भैया आपको ऑप्शन है ना, आप मत लीजिए AGMARC. You have an option.
You are only to work with FSSAI, that's all. Beyond that, if market demand, will go.
You have an
for
option
market.
if you want to sell to
Then,
premium
currently
segment.
in this case, what happens, sir, is कि if FSSAI के standard के माल हमने लिया है, बेच रहे हैं बाजार में, then if Agmark goes to the market, picks up sample, हमारा माल किधर है?
Agmark क्यों करेगा sample?
Agmark certified.
BIS
They
वही
will
sample
be higher
उठाएगा जो
side.
BIS mark होगा, Agmark वही sample उठाएगा जो Agmark
Agmark certified है.
हाँ, otherwise नहीं करेगा.
Agmark certified product Agmark ने
तेजस प्रॉब्लम वो नहीं है, मैं आपको टेबल बना के दूंगी. प्रॉब्लम ये है कि जैसे मैंने BIS का दिखाया ना, प्रॉब्लम वो है कि BIS का स्टैंडर्ड स्पाइस के केस में ऐसा हो सकता है कि ऐसा होना नहीं चाहिए, मगर कुछ कुछ स्पाइस के केस में, सबके लिए नहीं. Agmark का स्टैंडर्ड में मैं आपको एक टेबल बना के दिखाऊंगी, इट इज लोअर देन द FSSAI स्टैंडर्ड. वो क्यों है?
बताना चाहता हूँ, ये तीनों का एक कमिटी है जो स्टैंडर्ड फॉर्मुलेशन कमिटी, उसमें FSSAI होता है, BIS होता है, Agmark होता है, तीनों मिल के ये स्टैंडर्ड्स बनाते हैं.
फिर लेटेस्ट स्टैंडर्ड शायद आपके वेबसाइट में नहीं हो, कुछ तो है प्रॉब्लम.
But why different agencies?
There is no.
The industry's question is why different agencies?
Industry has to understand, please.
अलग-अलग चीजें हैं
One
ना.
regulator. There is one regulator. Your regulator is FSSAI.
So another point.
Understanding also, na. There is a single regulator FSSAI. You don't have to bother about anybody else. Now, if as a buyer, I am asking you, please, I want to buy only Agmark. You decide whether this buyer is important or not, or you forget about it. I'll get 5 people who are willing to go invest that money and get Agmark certification, and I'll buy from them. That's it. That's my choice as a buyer. If I want for certification, I'll ask for it. But as far as you are concerned, your first priority should be meeting regulations. That's it. Beyond that, if your buyer asks, all export certification which is being taken by manufacturers, why are they taking? Well, the buyer is asking, and he's going to pay the money. So they invest when they see that the buyer's money which I'm earning is more than what I'm going to invest in this. Otherwise, he will not invest. He'll say, "Ek buyer ke liye main kyun certification? Main nahi leta. Jao chhod." So we have to understand the difference between regulation and voluntary standards and voluntary certifications.
So another point, sir, is what Dr. Arpita also mentioned, that there is no harmonization of standards. There is a difference between what Agmark has and what FSSAI has. If you would request, if the idea,
if I said Agmark has to be higher. दूसरी बात है कि voluntary standards can be higher. Lower voluntary standards का तो कोई value नहीं है.
Value नहीं हो ही नहीं सकते. Law है. This is law.
Regulation तो basic है ना.
Even if
There is no confusion.
the basic law is in place, every voluntary standard, implicit in that is that you'll meet the law of the land. Every voluntary standard, even if it doesn't state so.
So now, thank you very much. We are running slightly late. Dr. Ramesh Chand is here. We are really privileged that a former member of NITI Aayog has sat through entire deliberations. Sir, before I request you to say the concluding words, I have a question which keeps bothering me all the time. It is not necessary. It is not only related to spices. There is a scheme of ICAR, AICRP. They collect data. They collect samples. Madam, it concerns all the consumers.
ICAR actually Pavitra that she wants
सुनिए कोई
to
नहीं,
talk on.
अब रमेश चंद साहब बोलेंगे, अब और कोई नहीं, हो गया. सुनिए, they collect samples of fresh fruits and vegetables from various markets of India, and they analyze them for pesticide, insecticide, वगैरह, whether MRL के beyond है या नहीं है. As far as I know, I could not see any report after 2018. There is no report. I checked up parliament question. I checked up everything. Nothing has been released after 2018. So, sir, my question is, are you aware of any recent report of AICRP? Number one. Number two, all their reports say that only 1.5% samples were found beyond MRL. So how correct is that? Over to you, sir.
Later on, sir.
Okay,
पहले आप बताइए.
ADG plant protection in.
No, I was, but then I was a part of AICR, ANP on pesticide residue, and it has been expanded to even heavy metals and antibiotics now. So, as per 24-25 data, which you are telling, this is asking. So they have on spices, 5 spices, 8 pesticides, 20 MRLs have been generated. This is all in spices. What you get? Only 5 spices, 8 pesticides and 20 MRLs. We do not, beyond that, we do not have, and only 5 spices. This is the latest one, which I am telling, which
नहीं
I
हम
got.
समझे नहीं इसका 18
हमारे
का
पास
डेटा है
हाँ 18 के बाद का ही डेटा मैं बोल रहा हूँ, 24, 25 का डेटा बता रहा हूँ.
तो पब्लिक डोमेन में है
There are
आपकी किसी वेबसाइट पे किसी पार्लियामेंट क्वेश्चन में नहीं है
मैं ये बता रहा हूँ कि there are some restrictions which have been put by government not to directly put on the जैसे organic के अंदर. So but then I am telling this from the AICRP report only. What I am telling, we have that too on the insistence of AICRP pesticide residue. We went to Codex. We got through monitoring data development. Like जैसे आपने बताया कि हमने सारे AICRP से 500 करके हम मॉनिटरिंग डेटा लेते हैं, उसके बेस पे रिस्क असेसमेंट करते हैं, उसके बाद हम वी हैव डेवलप्ड MRL which have been approved by Codex committee.
नहीं MRL की डेवलपमेंट की बात नहीं कर रहा
नहीं मैं कह रहा हूँ
how many samples were found beyond MRL as a consumer we want to know.
This is the second data I am telling. 3 up to 3% of the अभी तक जो अभी है. But the thing is, what I said in the earlier, that we have only 15% of pesticides which are registered in the country. 15% of the pesticide use is registered in the country. अब जब हम MRL हम जो 3% बोलते हैं, वो कैसे आता है? वो based upon those MRLs which we have developed. हमारे पास MRL अगर 368 pesticides हैं हमारे पास in the country. Hardly 15% of them have been registered on few crops. अब उसके ऊपर जो MRL सेट किया हुआ है, उसके अंदर विदिन हम कंपेयर कर रहे हैं 3% मिल रहा है. हम वी आर नॉट गोइंग ऑन ऑल द ऑफ लेवल यूजेस. ऑफ लेवल यूज को नहीं देख.
अगर मार्केट में कोई ऐसी सब्जी मिल रही है जो ऐसा पेस्टिसाइड यूज कर रहा है जो उसके लिए अप्रूव नहीं है, नहीं है तो वो आपकी रिपोर्ट में आता है कि नहीं?
इस रिपोर्ट में नहीं है.
तो यही तो फिर
यही रिपोर्ट में नहीं
तो हमें आज पता चला.
ऑफ लेवल यूज कह रहे हैं,
ऑफ लेवल यूज का कोई नहीं देखता, क्योंकि ऑफ लेवल यूज गवर्नमेंट डज नॉट से. सर गवर्नमेंट डज नॉट से, इंडस्ट्री डज नॉट से कि तुम यूज करो. इंडस्ट्री नहीं कहता.
इंडस्ट्री का है तो फ्रेश की बात हो रही है.
फ्रेश की
चलिए सर को
फ्रेश ऊपर ही बता.
लीजिए. हाँ कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स
function IC annual day.
कंक्लूडिंग रिमार्क्स सुनिए. मेंबर फॉर्मर मेंबर नीति आयोग.
Viewers, I gave some remarks in the beginning. I will not read those. I think India's standards in food have not evolved with the growth of food sector. We came out of scarcity in most cases, and then when you have scarcity, when you have shortage, you hardly bother about quality. Then whatever is available, you just take it. So that was our situation. But now, except oilseed and pulses, we are surplus in most of the commodities. But these standards, first, we don't have groundwork to even define some minimum standard. Like for major commodity we have, but Indian agriculture is so diverse that we have 80 kind of these spices even. So for dominant spices, there are standards. For other, there are no standards. So we are not investing enough on these kind of things, but we are having money to invest in all those kind of things, giving 2-3 lakh crore as a fertilizer subsidy, giving 20,000 crore on every 1 lakh ton of rice production, increase in rice production, because that is increasing. We are procuring it at MSP, but we can't export it because it is procured at MSP. Under PDS, we can give only 60 million ton, but we are procuring 90 million ton. So what do we do with this rest of the 20-30 million ton? So you will just find that we are spending crores and crores of rupees on these kind of things, but we are not spending even thousands and lakhs on many other areas which are of vital importance. So that is the issue. I just appreciate it. Particularly, you see, you pick up any newspaper, it will come with the reports. I have personally observed that these kind of things are happening right very close to the power. Sometimes you go to, even now I go back from this office to Pusa by a PM's residence. I find on the pavement people are selling guaras, chairs, and all those kind of things. Violation of rules. We as a society are becoming so insensitive we are accepting every violations. So when you are accepting violation on the road, people say, why not? You should be accepting violation on everything. And when our item get rejected, I am grateful to those countries that they are rejecting and they are making us realize how poor is your quality. Otherwise, I don't know what kind of product will be fed to us. We start finding reason, as Chakravarti ji found, Hong Kong consignment is not rejected, our is rejected. You see, a importing country, if that country itself is not producing that product, I feel there's no reason that they will be rejecting our supply to them, isn't it? So if we are sending some supplies to UK and UK is not producing that supplies, why should UK discriminate against our products? So these are all excuses that we are not meeting these standards. And since in our domestic market we can take consumer for a ride, we want to take consumer abroad also for a ride. This is a really very serious concern. In Delhi, sometimes you find that some people bring some produce on the cartload. वो यमुना के खादर में सब्जी होता है, where all kind of metal and all those things are there, and they bring it on the cart, and people feel they are getting fresh supply from far. And they pay more for something which is poisonous. So our system, Shiraji, it is not only in this case, in every situation, you observe it from morning till evening. You just come with me on the road, I will show you 3-4 violations just happening in front of your eyes. Parking space is not there, people are parking. Where parking space is there, something else is parked. So I think we, as a civil society, this issue need to be raised, that why we are becoming insensitive to violation of rules, forget about norms, etc., even rules and regulation. So it is a larger issue, which I think we need to worry about. As far as these standards are concerned, one is that, first of all, it is a duty of institutional body. And I feel AgMark is institutional body, but constrain you, we want to understand that you are having these standard only for 25 spices. Why not for 28, but why not all 80s? We should have this kind of standard for all 80s. The spices where we are the major producers, she gave the data, we produce 75%, we produce 80%. If we are producing 75%, who in the world will develop standard for us?
Exactly.
It comes on us if we are the major producer. Then we should be quoted everywhere. So that is the country which produces major kind of thing. You look at price of milk and milk product, they will say New Zealand prices. Because New Zealand from the beginning has been a major exporter. They have developed the standard and everybody see to that price. For that apply to every product. So for those products where we are the dominant producer, not more than dominant producer, the onus lies on us to give those kind of standards. And you will find that Codes Alimentarius, that mechanism, they will adopt our standard. At best, they can suggest a revision, but they will adopt because that commodity belongs to us. Major producer, major consumer, major exporter. And second is even our industry. Industry doesn't mean manufacturing. I mean this entire players in value chain. Again, we want someone else to do things for us. You see, SEBI is doing these standards for many commodities which are traded for future trading, forward trading. I'm a chairman of that committee because they have to do polling of prices. Then they took input. That's why they made me chairman. After me, I suggested name of Ashok Dalwai. I don't know who is chairing it now. So we worked hard to give them standards. We invited people from Ministry of Agriculture, ICRIER, took their help. Please give us the standards. So some responsibility of these kind of institutions also. At least you can ask Arpita, NCDX. Please work on this. I hope some of these spices are rated there on their platform. Ask them that they should constitute a committee and they should develop the standard for this kind of commodities. I was part of that SEBI appointed committee. Earlier it used to be Forward Market Commission. That is finished. Now it was the SEBI which was taking care. Like this NCD Act, which is doing these kind of things. So I think even traders' body, that after having pulse of the market, you come out that we need to classify produce in these three categories. Then you come with those kind of things. Yes, you are not having all these spices. At least you have jeera, cumin, which is produced there. At least you deal with it. You come out with its standard, your own standard. You discuss with Ajmer Institute. Dr. Kinchan was there. So if something is done on those kind of in collaboration, ICRIER and trade. Trade people know how things are selling in the market. So this is the, I think, way to go ahead. One last comment, Arpita. You were showing in certain cases, this spice, only 2 states are producing 70%. Why it should be a matter of concern. Spices के case में special attributes are the major concern for consumer. Meghalaya haldi will always sell more than the haldi you produce other places because it has very high whatever content. Otherwise, at one time Punjab farmers started producing turmeric. They flooded the market and price just went down. Nobody was buying those kind of things. In rice, you can say that it can be grown in wider geographies. So why only its production is concentrated in 4 states? Why not everywhere? Spices, particular kind of soil, particular kind of climate, it matters for those qualities. And in case of pulses, in case of spices, major payment is for those attributes. Yes. They get diluted if you start growing them beyond that particular geography. Okay. So do not feel much concerned if their production is concentrated. I know that this jeera can produce in arid district of Haryana also. Sarsa can produce it, but quality will deteriorate. Yes. You will not get same quality which you are getting in Jodhpur, isn't it? Right. Or in some districts of. Keep those things also in mind. That these are the things. Spreading something beyond their traditional pockets, which adapted to nature. That's why they have those kind of qualities. Now people are talking, I was Chhattisgarh, हमारे rice को basmati क्यों नहीं लेते? Because scientists have developed varieties which can be grown beyond the area which was earlier producing basmati. I know it is not a traditional basmati. Only those persons who have eaten basmati can know that whether it is diluted basmati or it is. But scientists, they are developing varieties for wider adaptation. But that purity in terms of quality certainly get diluted. It is more vulnerable to problem. Again, I should not take more time. I was in the cement board. They were trying to promote wheat in Bangladesh. I don't know why you are doing it. The Bangladesh government wanted, but you are scientists. You should use your brain also. The best crop for Bangladesh are rice and maize. By putting this wheat there, we tried in West Bengal, that wheat blast came, it created problem for rest of the country also. So we have to go for some adaptation according to nature. So this concentration, etc., I think not a important issue. Rather in pulses, if we concentrate in those kind of pockets, we will have quality advantage. So these are some of the issues which just
okay. So thank you very much. Thank you participants who have joined in the online mode, and thank you for participants who have joined physically, and congratulations to Arpita, Professor Arpita, and her team. Eshana. Very nice. So very good report, well presented also, and I hope you will get more sponsors for further research. Thank you so much.
I would like to take 2 more minutes of everyone's time to give the vote of thanks. And thank you to everyone for being here today and for such a rich and constructive discussion. The insights and recommendations, as you mentioned, the discussions have given us a lot of food for thought for future research on this area. The policy brief is part of our ongoing research on the spices sector, and we hope to continue working and build more on this sector. And we are grateful to many people, especially our reviewers, Ramesh sir and Raka. Both the candid and practical comments helped us define the policy brief, if I may say. We are also thankful to the industry input that we received. It's been a core part of the research. And I would like to thank Tejas ji, Karthik ji, and Ritika for all their valuable input. I would also like to thank Shekhar sir for his encouragement and support throughout the study, and to our panelists, Seema ji, Anil ji, and Komal ji. And Tejas sir, again, for your continued support throughout our multiple studies. As we continue our work on spices sector and other areas of food, we will continue to reach out to you for your guidance and advice. And lastly, I would like to invite you all for lunch now.